Super, that's recording now, so shall we kick off?
Yeah, sure, anytime.
Brilliant. Like I say, welcome everybody. Thank you for signing up to this event through Population Health Data Analytics Centre of Excellence. Really pleased to welcome Vivian from Monster Lab, who will obviously introduce himself, but great to see everyone. This session is being recorded as well. Lovely, over to you.
Thank you very much. So yeah, thank you very much for this opportunity. So we are here today to talk a little bit about blockchain and NFT, and also extend a little bit about the context of healthcare. Let me introduce myself very quickly. So my name is Vivian. I'm French, currently living in Japan. And my main experience is more related to Microsoft and .NET World, but I'm currently working in a company in Japan called Monster Lab, and I also consider myself as an independent researcher and enthusiast about blockchain and Web3 technology. So that's why I'm here to talk with you tonight. I started I knew about blockchain from a long time, but I really started to deep dive into it since 2021. I already had the opportunity to give several public speeches about blockchain, such as a conference called Borderless Engineering Conference. My goal, I think it's still an under-known field, so that's why I would like here to try to share what I learned about it and what we could potentially do in various industries and applications. And of course, tonight, the industry will be more about healthcare. So for tonight, so it's more, I think, an introduction session. So it will be, yes, cover maybe some fundamental subject, but I will try to give my own opinion, maybe to make it a little bit more original. So just tell a little story about maybe why the blockchain first, then my opinion about what is the blockchain. And then we will talk about another subject related to the blockchain called the NFTs. And then I would like to, yes, just focus a little bit about the current state of blockchain tech. And then after seeing what the current state, maybe try to start to think a little bit about the future, because I think it's probably what is the most interesting for all of us, maybe, about this subject, is starting to imagine a little bit about the future. And of course, potential usage in healthcare, and at the end, a small conclusion. All right, so let's start. So why the blockchain? You've probably heard about this story, but I want to share it anyway, just in case you've never heard about it, because I think it's an interesting introduction about the subject. So you probably heard about the global financial crisis, which happened in 2008. And at that time, a lot of private banking institutions disappeared, and a lot of people lost a lot of money, a lot of their savings. And the story say that somebody called Satoshi Nakamoto, which sounds very Japanese, by the way, wrote a white paper called Bitcoin, a peer-to-peer electronic cash system. And it was designing and telling about a new form of currency, so virtual currency, which would not rely on private establishment and would be something more decentralized. What is probably a part of the myth is that as of today, we still don't really know who is Satoshi Nakamoto. We still don't know if it's only one person or a group of persons. There is a lot of rumors about this, but until today, still no official response to this answer. But what is sure is that even today and even more in the future, I guess, the fact that Bitcoin appeared definitely impacted a lot finance and probably beyond. And beyond is probably the whole philosophy about decentralization and the distribution of power in a more decentralized way. So that's all for the small introduction story. Let me try to define, in my opinion, what is the blockchain. So when I try to define the blockchain, I tend to start by giving some properties. For me, the real keywords of blockchain is first is decentralized. I think it's like the most important word because it's where everything starts. And then also something which is very important is that everything is secure on the blockchain. There's a lot of cryptography um, implied in this technology, and this is a very important part as well. Another important part is that everything is transparent. So every single transaction, everything which is happening on the blockchain can be seen by anyone. And the last one is that when something is recorded on the blockchain, nobody can change it anymore. So this is an immutable system. And I think that these four properties truly build something which is very important, called which is a trustless system. So compared to before, you don't really have to rely and trust to an external entity anymore. You now have a system which is called the blockchain on which you can rely because everything which is happening on the blockchain is decentralized, secure, transparent, and immutable. So you can trust this system as well. You don't have to trust anybody anymore, which is why you can call it trustless. And then you have to trust a little bit the system, in fact. However, that being said, for people who are maybe a little bit used with web technologies, I tend to consider that blockchain technology is definitely slow because we are not talking about millions of transactions per second. We are talking, for instance, for Ethereum blockchain, it was like several transactions per second only, less than 10. And also, I consider it, even though Bitcoin is quite old, the technology is in itself is still very new, in my opinion, especially all of the tooling around the blockchain. And also, something very important, in my opinion, to fully understand the subject is that there is not only one blockchain, there are several blockchain. But you probably have heard this sentence very often, but blockchain is killing the world. Well, it's hard to tell the contrary, at least for two very famous blockchain, which are called Bitcoin and Ethereum. So for instance, Bitcoin was said to consume as much electricity in 1 year as the Argentina country, and Ethereum was said to consume as much as the Ecuador country. In fact, they consume a lot of electricity because they rely on an algorithm to validate and secure the blockchain, which is called proof of work, so POW. And that's involve a lot of computation. That's why you probably heard in the news people are buying graphic cards to be able to mint Bitcoin and Ethereum. So in that case, yes, it does consume a lot of electricity. However, this is not the only algorithm. that you can use to secure your blockchain. There is also another algorithm, very famous algorithm, which is called the POS, proof of stake, which involve not making a lot of computation, but um, trusting some cryptocurrency to the network. And you if you try to um, do something wrong to the network, you risk losing these cryptocurrency. So it's in your interest to not behave in a bad way. And well, there's an algorithm around it, and there is several blockchain already using this algorithm, such as Polygon, Polkadot, and Solana blockchain. And in fact, maybe you have heard about this as well. Recently, Ethereum also moved from the proof of work algorithm to the proof of stake algorithm, and it made Ethereum gain a 99.95% reduction on electricity consumption. And now to run a node of one of these proof of stake blockchain, you could run that on a simple Raspberry Pi, meaning that now, well, the nodes of these networks is not even bigger than a classic server or classic computer. Also, to define the blockchain, I think it's important to talk about the several types of blockchain. The most popular, in my opinion, are the public blockchain network, which are usually very decentralized and are truly what we call the trustless system in the blockchain world. So there are many participants. Usually it's an open network, so anybody can join and start to validate and help improving the security of the network by decentralizing it a little bit more. In between, there is also another type of blockchain, which is called the consortium blockchain network. This time, it's not usually not well, it's not open, so not anybody can join. It's usually a group of institutions which decide to create their own blockchain network and decide to trust each other, and also decide to decentralize the power, not having only one institution to um, hold all of the data or all of the database, but just decentralize all of that. And for example, if somebody, a new company wants to join the network, it has to be approved by all of the participants of the network. So it's less decentralized than the public blockchain, but it's still it's still a little bit decentralized, and it's a little bit trustless system to a certain extent. And then you have the last type of blockchain, which is called the private blockchain network. And in that case, well, it's usually only one company who is which is providing its own blockchain. So, well, in that case, it's heavy centralized, and in fact, you have to trust this company because, well, if this company is the only one running the nodes of the network, if tomorrow the company disappear, usually all of the nodes of the network are going to disappear. So you have to trust this company to handle very well the network. Usually, at least in the news, but usually when we talk about blockchain tech, we tend to talk about public blockchain network. So that's why I will probably, when I say blockchain tonight, also talk about public blockchain network. So that's all for the blockchain part. Let's talk a little bit about NFTs. So what's an NFT? Then first of all, you've probably heard about cryptocurrency. We say that cryptocurrency are fungible tokens, and on the contrary, NFTs are the acronym of non-fungible token. So what does it mean? Well, it's very simple. for instance, a cryptocurrency, the Bitcoin cryptocurrency is a fungible token. So if I have one Bitcoin and my neighbor also has one Bitcoin, we can exchange it. They have exactly the same value. It's impossible to distinguish them. They are exactly the same. It's totally fungible. On the contrary, for non-fungible tokens, so for NFTs, they have IDs. So from the same token collection, they have different ID. And for instance, an NFT with an ID 24 is usually different than an NFT with an ID 42. They can have different metadata. One of the most common usage at the moment is associating picture. So that's why, for instance, you have a famous Japanese artist who bought an ape picture worth of $1,065,000. So yes, it's not one token in a collection in which you can't distinguish. Every single token has its own identity, its own unicity, and it's unique. So to try to illustrate a little bit more, let me show a quick demo. So this is a website called oncyber.io. It's a free website, which maybe you can call it a metaverse, which is also a very popular word these days. So in this small 3D world, all of the picture you can see around are NFTs, in fact. So there are several. It's from a famous artist in Japan. And for each NFTs, you can, in fact, navigate. You can see a lot. You can decide to make an offer to buy it. And you can also see this NFT on one of the most famous marketplace about NFTs at the moment, which is called OpenSea. And you can see on OpenSea all of the data associated with this NFT. So you can see who is the owner of this NFT. You can see also the price history. If we scroll down a little bit more, we can see who created.
Sorry to interrupt you. I think it stayed on your presentation screen rather than flicked over to the demo screen.
Oh, so it didn't switch.
It didn't switch over. Sorry to interrupt you.
No. Thank you. On the contrary, can you see it or you don't you?
No, not yet.
Sorry, let me try to share it once more. Truly sorry.
There we go. That's great.
I see. Sorry. So yes, here is the 3D world. Sorry, and yes, from here you can see the NFT and navigate to the marketplace OpenSea. And from here, yes, you can see the data associated to the NFT, the original author, and you can see also the transactions. You can see that this NFT was bought for 1.2 ETH, so around $1,500 at the moment, etc., etc. Yes. So yes, I hope maybe this help a little bit to understand more about NFTs. To define NFTs a little bit like the blockchain, I like to use some properties and try to define them. So the most important aspect of NFTs, I think, is their unicity. So now, when somebody is the owner of an NFT, it can be a unique piece. So far, digital assets, if you had a picture on your cell phone and if you gave this picture to your neighbor, well, you couldn't know anymore who was the original picture author, and you don't know the history of the transaction and stuff. So yes, you have unicity. You have also ownership. Now a digital asset can be owned by somebody. It's written on the blockchain who is the owner. And also NFTs are on the blockchain, which means they are on a decentralized, secure, transparent, and immutable system on a trustless system. So, well, they are here virtually forever secured on the blockchain. Also, something which is very often said about NFTs, but I can right click and I can save your picture. So let me try to give an example to explain where we can find some values in NFTs. There is a very famous painting, I guess you know about it, which is called the Mona Lisa. And in fact, I think at the current moment, you could um, probably very easily go on internet and find some printing and print your own Mona Lisa and display it in your living room if you want. And in fact, you can even buy some reproduction on internet on websites, and it would cost less than $10. Though we know that the value of the original Mona Lisa is far more than $10. It's estimated at the moment more than $900 million. So in the same aspect with NFT technology, we can now define which digital asset is the original versus a copy. So of course, everybody can save and click your JPEG. Just having the picture on their computer doesn't make them the owner of the picture. So in that sense, that's how you can associate some value with NFTs and digital assets. So about the current state of blockchain tech, very very quickly. At the end of 2021, for instance, in Japan, more than 9% out of 10 didn't know what was the word NFTs. Even in United Kingdom, in September 2021, it was less than 8% among 10%. So yeah, it's still very new. At the moment, I think that most people participating in the blockchain tech really take this as investment, which can be good and bad at the moment. Also, I usually like to consider the blockchain world a little bit like Far West, the Far West at its time. So there's a lot of scam at the moment. It's also a little bit like the beginning of internet, I think. So unfortunately, a lot of scam at the moment. So you have to be careful if you want to navigate this world at the moment. It's probably too complicated for common people. If you already try to buy an NFT or some cryptocurrency, you have to navigate through multiple tools and website, and it's probably too complicated. I wouldn't recommend it to my own family at the moment, to be honest. And I think it's just starting in the world. So it's my personal opinion, but I think though that at the current moment, the blockchain usage discovery is less than 10%. And I truly consider blockchain technology like with the same potential as the internet. And like the internet, that when it started, we didn't really know what would Facebook or Google or Twitter even looked like at the moment. And I think it's a little bit the current state of blockchain. So we know its potential, but we still don't know what will be the super usage which is going to be adopted by the whole world. That being said, let's try to talk a little bit about the future. So there is something called tokenization. So before talking about tokenization, we have to talk about digital transformation. And I think that for digital transformation, there was so far two major steps. The first one was with the appearance of computers, because it helped to digitalize a lot of work, computer assisted design tools and stuff. And then the internet came, and it also helped to digitalize a lot of other domains such as e-commerce and social media and marketing, etc., etc. And it is said that potentially we are going to see another digital transformation era, which is called the tokenization. So the tokenization is heavily related to everything I said so far. So it's just a way to digitalize assets on the blockchain, and these assets can be identified and owned. So it's not only a picture, it's not only a video file, it's not only a PDF, it's something which can be owned, stored, transferred, and traded. If I give some example, the easiest example is probably digital art, I think. So during the internet era, if you had famous artists who would create a digital art, well, the problem would be that after the art is created, it can be bought maybe by somebody, but then this person can copy it and send it to other person, and well, you would not know anymore which one is the original. You would not know also the history of this asset, and it will not be unique anymore. But thanks using the tokenization, using blockchain with the tokenization era, we would have digital assets which could be unique, tradable, and ownable. So let's try to share. So I'm not an expert in healthcare, unfortunately, but I search a little bit about the potential usage which could be applicable using blockchain. So in my opinion, I see three main domains which are very famous to be quite applicable to healthcare and blockchain. Supply traceability, authentication, and data on the blockchain. So to give some example for the supply traceability, you could probably trace medical equipment movement quite easily on the blockchain. And I mean, you could already do that without the blockchain. Of course, the benefit of using the blockchain is that you're on a trustless system. So it does not belong to only one company, and you have to trust this company. It's the data is publicly available on the blockchain, and it's easily to be integrated into different companies, and it's easy to be standardized. In a little bit similar to that, you could also trace the medicine distribution as well as the expiration control. So all of this data would be available on the blockchain, and you could check it, and you could make sure that yes, the medicine you are currently using truly went from the place you were expected, and also the expiration control, the expiration date, which were defined at the beginning, are still okay at the moment you are checking the data. Also, a little bit similar with the authentication, you could have authentication of medical equipment. In fact, this is something which is still currently in development with the blockchain, but you could link a physical asset to digital asset. So in that sense, you could, when you receive a medical equipment, you probably would have something to check its ID on the blockchain with some probably a NFC chip or something similar like that. And then you could be able to make sure that the medical equipment is really official and what you were expected. And in the same way, you could also check the medicine and make sure that the medicine is not counterfeit medicine. And for the data on the blockchain, so it's wider in a sense. So you could, for instance, have certification and qualification of doctors and people from who you would expect a certification and qualification, and everything would be on the blockchain with transparency and trust. So it's a first usage, which is also applicable outside of healthcare, of course, but also applicable in healthcare. Another heavily discussed subject, which is about storing personal data or even health data on the blockchain. The benefit would be that, well, the blockchain is a secured and trustless system. And also, when you put data on the blockchain, you can define a standardized and a public way of accessing your data. So since everything is open, it's easier to have a standardized way of defining the personal or health data on the blockchain and the way to accessing it and across different establishment. Also, related to health data as well as personal data, it can enable a little bit more the empowerment of patient, because the data would not be stored anymore only in one establishment, but it would be stored in a decentralized way, and the access would be given to and the permission and the rights would be given to the patient himself. So the patient would be able to say to authorize establishment to access to its to his health data and personal data. So in that sense, it would give more power to the patient. And also related to the standardized way of storing data on the blockchain, it could probably help also clinical trial data collection, giving access to the data in a standardized way to a lot of establishment. And well, a lot of things could happen. We don't know, but something which is kind of popular at the moment on the blockchain, which is anything to earn. We could imagine that people could be patient could be incentivized to share their data to for clinical reasons. So maybe we could, in some way, create a small economy for people to share their health data, to encourage people sharing their health data. So here are some ideas. We can probably discuss about this, and if you have some question at the end, we can discuss about this, I guess. For small conclusion, so I just repeat what I said before, but I still think that for the blockchain, we are still at the beginning, and we still have no idea what will be the real usage for mass adoption at the moment. And we didn't even talk about other subjects which are a little bit more complicated, so I didn't have time to talk about that. But there are also something called DAO, Decentralized Autonomous Organization, and you have decentralized organization, which are not company, but a lot of people, regrouped people who are doing things like some DAO try to buy the the United States Constitution, or try to buy a McDonald's or a baseball court and things like that. Also, the to earn economy, there's the most famous is obviously the play to earn economy. So you have some blockchain game where people are making so much money they quitted their job. So especially in, I would say, poorer countries. But in Philippines, the game Axie Infinity was like the top search word in Google, because people were more paid playing Axie Infinity rather than being a project manager. So yes, it's also something complicated but interesting as well. And I think also the relationship between blockchain and metaverse also is very interesting, especially because digital assets are very present in the metaverse, and there is also a lot of usage with the blockchain, I guess. And that's all for the presentation. I hope you enjoyed it and maybe you learned a few things. Thank you very much for listening. I have a small feedback form. If you want to give some feedback, feel free to fill it. And I guess we have some time to take some questions if some people want to ask some things or just discuss and share their own discovery about blockchain and healthcare, maybe.
Wow, thank you so much. I found that really insightful. I really enjoyed that, and I think that the way that you explained it makes it really understandable. So hope others also agree. I think it's really interesting to see the evolution of where we've got to where we are now, but really exciting to think about where it might go and where we might develop with all of these things. It's kind of like you say, we're almost on a cusp of it. So that's why we kind of wanted to bring it to the Analyst community and make sure that we're early, putting it positive, that we're not kind of behind. It's interesting to see the UK are kind of on the top of that chart that you showed, that we're actually one of the countries that probably know least. We have got 5 minutes. We just popped this in until 12:15, I think, and recognizing it's 12:15 our time. I know it's probably a lot later your time, isn't it? Is there anybody that wants to kind of come in, raise any questions or just any reflections with that's the benefit of having a slightly smaller group today, I guess?
Hi there. Hi, and I'm John. I'm the Chief Technology Officer at FitFile, and we handle a lot of patient records. But I also, in a previous life, did a lot of work with blockchains. I've been looking at healthcare blockchains for quite a while, and I've not seen any that look viable for any reasonable use case. I'm just curious to see if anybody has. I evaluated another one last week, and I don't know, it looks more like a scam to me than a real business application. Has anybody used anything or investigated anything? Maybe not. I think it's definitely useful for providing trust, but I think there's plenty of existing tech that can do that as well.
No, Patrick's got his hand up, but I'm not sure if it's in reflection of that point or another one.
No, mine's another point. If you
That's
want
fine.
me to,
Yeah.
As you can see, I'm an old person. I started work before there was calculators, never mind computers. And my technical ability is zero. But I do think that there's, as you say, a lot of use possible in the health service area. And I think the biggest issue is actually patient data, because I live in North Tyneside, but if I had an accident in Cornwall, nobody would be able to see any of my background data, which is quite significant. Would blockchain be able to pull all the different records that people have in social care, NHS, charities, all together to make it one database?
Oh, so let me just share my opinion, but and also maybe just a small comment about what John said before. I do believe that at the moment, unfortunately, the blockchain is, I would say, not ready. The tooling is not yet quite there yet. The UX as well, it's too complicated to interact with the blockchain at the moment, but it's evolving very fast. So potentially things which are not possible today will be possible tomorrow. So, and definitely about the data on the blockchain, I truly believe that one of the most powerful, especially from the tech side, maybe, of the blockchain is the fact that it's very, very easy to standardize things on the blockchain, and it's public and trustable because it's decentralized. So we could very, very easily imagine that one day somebody, probably at the beginning it would be a private establishment, which say, okay, we try to store patient data on the blockchain, and we did it like that. And if anybody want to use our system, well, it's open on the blockchain and everybody can access to it. And then it could be the standardized way for everybody, maybe in the world, to use health data. And so that's yeah, that's the direction that I think blockchain tech is heading to standardize and put things publicly available and easily available to everyone. But we're not yet there, I think. Thank you for your question.
And Dilshan, you've got your hand up, but I think you've popped it also in the chat.
I have, Victoria. Hi, Vivian. So first of all, thank you very much. It's a really great summary of a very interesting technology, which I think is trying to find its place in healthcare, if I'm honest. And I think when I look at the example of Bitcoin and the history of it, I think one thing about healthcare is around trust. And there are episodes in Bitcoin's history where that trust has been lost, shall we say. And that may have been an evolving technology rather than the end product we now see. So one is, I think, to find its place, it needs to, it requires trust. But the second one, it works on another principle, which is of reciprocity. So you need all the block formers and all the ledger managers, and there is that sort of transactional element, whether it be 0.00001 of a Bitcoin for all those actions. When you're talking about healthcare data and the trillions and trillions of data points, I guess, how do you scale that then in an industry such as healthcare?
Awesome question. Thank you very much. Again, I'm not sure I'm going to give an answer which will prove to be true in the future, but there is a lot of things done about scalability at the moment. One of the most common way of doing that is, in fact, to have one public blockchain, such as Bitcoin, or maybe more, in my opinion, Ethereum. And then you have side blockchain, which is what we call layer 2 blockchain, which are outside of the Ethereum and which can have faster transaction speed. And from time to time, they are going to store a bunch of their transaction on Ethereum, allowing them to have the trust and the security of the Ethereum blockchain, while also having the scalability of a side blockchain. This is maybe not yet perfect, but in this sense, it's definitely a field where blockchain is also evolving a lot. So the same at the moment, unfortunately. You probably could imagine having, yes, a side blockchain dealing with trillions of transactions in healthcare. You could build your own blockchain, and then you could probably link it to one of more popular blockchain to also have this decentralization and security. It could be an answer at the moment. Will it be the ultimate answer? Maybe in the future we can have also even more better answer as well.
Thank you, Vivian.
Thank you very much.
I've worked on that scalability problem. I used to manage about 6 blockchains for a big financial services organization, and the scalability is there, and Ethereum is probably the right sort of blockchain to use. And I recognize that trust issue as well, but actually all tech has trust issues, and blockchains have good capabilities for maintaining trust, at least as good, if not better, than regular databases. So I definitely think there's some value there in blockchains for healthcare, and I spend my days joining up healthcare records between primary care and health and secondary care and different organizations for research. And at the moment, I would say blockchains is a good, interesting tech to use, but it's just not necessary right now. I'd love to, but yeah, and joining up records across the country is also, you know, we're kind of working towards that. There's a big RFP just come out for the NHS, this federated data platform, and that will move quite a long way towards making that happen, but it's going to take some time.
John, it's Alex here. Just wanted to come in about the question earlier. You asked, is anybody has got any use cases or anybody who's doing something in healthcare? This might be worth to actually post it on the Analyst X discussion forums to see any other colleagues that we have got is currently using it, or be able to actually share that use case that they're building. Because having a quick look online, there are a couple of healthcare is currently using this blockchain to store their data. So it might be quite a good discussion forums to be posted on there to ask.
What was the name of that project?
It's analyst. I just did a quick search online. So I don't want to share anything until I've kind of like read it and digested. But when I put in blockchain in healthcare or for healthcare, and then there were a couple of them were saying or suggested on there. But I'm happy to actually send the link to you offline. But it was just a general Google search.
Yeah, I've seen there's quite a few out there. There's some of them are interesting, and some of them are really like just noise. But
sure.
It'd be interesting to have a discussion forum around it with Analyst X. Actually, it's quite an idea.
Right.
Yeah, and as we learn more, we can invite other presenters to come along where there's kind of applied examples going on. I think this is just the start of the conversation, isn't it? We are over time, recognising people want a chance to grab some lunch, but amazing. Thank you so much for everybody attending, and thank you, Vivian. Really, really interesting presentation and really understandable. So thank you. Lots more exciting events coming up. I'll pop the link in the chat. One that hopefully grabs people's attention is a virtual escape room coming up, hosted by InfoLab with Alteryx Technology. So please do look out for that, launching next week to be held at the end of this month. And we'll draw it to a close there. Thank you, everyone, again, and really great to see you all.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.